Hey guys. I don't even know what to say. Let's not even do like a little intro. Guys, yesterday was insane. Insane. We did it. We freaking did it. We went through to the quarterfinals, which is something that Arsenal haven't done in a very long time since like 2010. And the last time that we went through, we actually went through after beating Porto, so I love it. I love the symmetry there. Last night I could barely go to sleep. Um, I was trying to work. Like that's why I didn't have like the post match or the watch along because I had like a last minute assignment come up that was due like yesterday in the evening. And so during that whole time that I was doing that, I was just like, I cannot even concentrate. Arsenal have just done the unthinkable. The amount of rivals that did hate alongs just to sit there for 4 hours and watch us win. I love that. When will they learn? When will they learn? But listen, we're going to talk about all of it. This is going to be a little bit of like a post match, um, whatever, like breakdown or whatever, because I wasn't able to do one yesterday. And what else on earth are we going to talk about but that game? Because we have 19 days off until we play Man City now. And that's why, like, we needed to go through because I could not fathom going through this international break after going out in the Champions League. So let's freaking talk about it. The one thing I want to say though is like sometimes I do forget, and I feel like a lot of people forget that there are quite a few people in our fan base, fans in the fan base, whatever, that have never seen Arsenal this good. And so seeing them so like just gassed and like excited was like very heartwarming because you just forget that like I'm a little bit older than everybody else, like I'm 35. So I've seen some shit, but like they haven't seen anything. And so I'm just loving that they're having these moments. I'm more happy for them and the players that like they are able to go through to the quarterfinals and like see what that's like and stuff like that. Because like for me, it's just like get it done. But for them, it's like the first time that they've seen Arsenal do anything this good. You know what I mean? Like it's actually wild. So, and this is honestly the best Arsenal team that I've seen probably in the Emirates era. Maybe since like early Emirates era, like 2008, 2000 to 2010, there were some good teams in there, but this team definitely has something special. And no, we weren't the best, and we'll talk about that, but it doesn't really matter because in knockout football, you just have to find a way. And we did. We won the game on the night, and then we had to go in and do the penalties. After playing a really insane game against Porto, they did the exact same thing. They didn't really want to play. The ball wasn't really in play very often. The referee did get like manipulated in their nonsense of the falling over. Anytime we touched them, it was a foul. Anytime they touched us, it was not. I still am not sure. I believe that the pull on Pepe was enough for him to go down and that goal shouldn't have stood because the same thing happened in the opposite direction where one of their players pulled us and nothing happened. So I just feel like we deserve to go through, not only from like the balance of play and the fact that Porto just did not play at all, to the fact that we actually just were amazing on our penalties. I mean, Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Odegaard, and Saka, well done. Those were the perfect penalties. And David Raya, you guys know. Let's not hold on. Let me just go into the comments first, and then we'll talk about David Raya because, again, this is a very affirming week for him as our number one. Glenn says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well. Kahinde says, come on, Arsenal. Mr. Forbes says, I guess you wanted to enjoy the match without a live. No, not so much. I had work to do. And I would have loved to have gone live after the game, especially because like I just wanted to celebrate with everybody else. But yeah. Ben says, so proud of the boys. I am as well. John P says, Porto's manager is such a knob. We'll talk about that too. Mr. Forbes, I could not sleep. I took the day off. Legume says, so glad Porto and their loser manager fucked off. He was awful. Curtis says, what a game. Harold says, hi from Oslo. Please start give Odegaard the respect and recognition he deserves campaign. I've been on it. I've been on it. Anybody that's watched the channel that follows me on socials knows that I am the president of the Odegaard fan club. I will defend him with my life. I think we are watching an all-timer, like an all-timer at our club, like, and people just don't seem to see it because they're so busy, like, focusing on what he doesn't do and not focusing on all the great things that he does do. And there's not very much that he does not do. Like, he is fantastic. And, you know, he's not perfect, but he's fantastic. And anybody on the planet would love to have Odegaard in their team. And he had a captain's performance yesterday. And I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by how good he plays because, again, I'm the president of the fan club. Like, I think he's going to be an all-timer at Arsenal. Like, it's actually like insane. We're watching him become that. And like, people are like not excited about it because Madison started off well at Spurs. Like, fuck off. He's great. So yeah, Seawalder says, I'll happily insult his family. Mate parents raise a petulant man, baby. Oh man. Lynn says, good afternoon, Jess. Good afternoon to you as well. Sammy says, people at the start of the season wanted Rice to replace him as captain. Aha says, also, I think that was Saka's worst game for Arsenal. Probably, definitely, probably. I mean, I think Saka had a pretty terrible game. There's no way really to sugarcoat it. I thought, yes, he had a difficult assignment where, the other team was double team, triple teaming him. But I just thought his touches were loose. He wasn't really getting to second balls. He looked off it. I don't know if he was still, dealing with a little bit of the flu that he had the other day. But that being said, he buried his penalty when it mattered. And, I can move on from that. Saka is very rare that Saka has a bad game. It's unfortunate that he had it like in the biggest game of our season, but it is what it is. Jagoon says the ref was something else, but you have to admit he made the game fun and wasn't biased. I do think that he called a lot of fouls on us and did not call the obvious fouls. Like, there was one where they pushed Jorginho over, no foul. Like, if they were physical, it didn't matter. If we were physical, it was like, I don't know if they told them that English teams are very physical. So when they touch the other player, that usually means that they foul. But there were just some times where I just felt like he was a little bit too lenient on them and a little bit too harsh on us, and it could have evened out a little bit. Still, again, I'm still not sure that goal should have been called back. He was all right. Like, he was all right. Pure 10 says Odegaard leads by example, work rate, composure, and class. Let's see. Fabi says, can we speak on Kivior, please? Kivior had a monster game yesterday. He was fantastic. He was very, very strong and solid. I just thought he had a great game. You always want to see players be able to rise to the occasion in matches that really matter. And he did that. And I just feel like he is slowly but surely securing a spot in the team, like I knew he would if he got some consistent game time. Kivior is a good player. He really is. And he adds a little bit of something to that back line where we definitely don't have that with some of the other players that, we have in that position. And so well done to him. I was a little bit like disappointed that he came off, and I don't necessarily feel like bringing in Zinchenko added anything. I actually think it detracted from what we were trying to do. I thought Zinchenko was horrendous when he came on, if I'm honest with you. So well done, Kivior. He was just very, very good on the day. And, we kept a clean sheet, which I think people are forgetting too. It's like, no, they didn't try to play football, but they did have some opportunities to hit us on the break. David Raya in regular time made some good saves, and Kivior and Gabriel, Ben White, Saliba had a shaky game, but they did what they needed to do to keep Porto from scoring a goal, so well done to the defense, especially Kivior. Let's see. Lynn says, I want to give Kai credit. Rating guy did not stop running or trying for the team, and his confidence is growing with every game. He's a shithouse, man. He really is. He's a shithouse. And listen, I think, some people were saying Kai had a terrible game, and I think ultimately the level just wasn't where it needed to be. I do think Arsenal in general have struggled with mid blocks, and the fact that they did not try to play football at all and they flooded the midfield we just didn't have the right answer. And I thought the 2 times that we went long to Kai Havertz, we found joy, and we just didn't do it enough. He won almost every single one of his aerial duels. I think he won 12 out of 13 or something like that. And we went long to him. And that's how we got the second ball that led to our goal, with Odegaard passing it through to Trossard. And then the goal that was disallowed was actually due to us going long to Kai again. And I feel like I'm not a tactician by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're trying to break down a mid block, I feel like you either have to go around or you have to go behind, and we just didn't do enough of that. We had a too much time where Gabriel and Saliba and Ben White were on the ball, and we were trying to do these intricate triangles on the wings, and they had that area very much so like condensed, and especially on Saka's side. And we just needed to go long, and not go long to the wingers, but go long to Kai. But that being said, he worked really hard, and I know that it's like, well, you can't give ratings for duels, and I'm like, yeah, but we're beyond the part with Kai where we're trying to understand what he's going to be like at Arsenal. I think he has enough credit in the bank from the last 10 games or so for us to give him credit for duels. It's not like the beginning of the season, and I thought he had a good game in the context of what this game became, which was bullshit. No, so yeah. Pure 10 says Rice will still be the leader in the team and dressing room without the armband. Odegaard epitomizes our team values. Yeah, you guys, you know how I feel about this. I feel like Rice has completely changed who we are as a team in some ways. I just feel like he adds a little bit of just simplicity to what we're trying to do. He just does the right things most of the time. And he's always there showing up in the big moments, like he did with his penalties and stuff like that. And so, yeah, Rice is a captain-like figure at Arsenal, but the way that people dismissed Odegaard, I felt like was super. It's based on things that I don't actually think have anything to do with his footballing ability. I've spoken about it before, and people, especially men, have problems with players that are not faux macho. If you're not a drooling, kind of I'm going to show you how strong I am, they think you're weak, and then they feel like it projects something on them, and then they project it outwards. It's bullshit. Odegaard is not weak, and he's basically a number 10 by trade that's added so many other things to his locker where he's virtually unplayable and undroppable. It's insane what Odegaard has done to that role. When Jorginho comes out, Odegaard has to drop deeper in his role. Earlier on in the game, he was able to get a little bit higher. Once Jorginho comes off, Odegaard has to drop deeper and start to dictate play from deep, because we don't have that technician deeper in our midfield. His role is so much more than just sitting in the pockets and making shit happen. He presses. He leads by the example. He runs his ass off. He creates the chances. He scores goals. He dictates play from deep. I don't know how much more this boy has to do to get freaking respect. I don't know what he has to do. Does he have to? I don't know what he has to do. I genuinely don't. I feel like what he would need to do is play for another team and play well, and then people would start sucking him off. That's really what it is, seriously. Because what we do is we look at other teams and look at other players and look at what they do, and then start talking shit about our players like they're not better. They are better, So let's see. John P says Odegaard's goal was a good goal in my opinion, considering how the game was being refereed. I really did think that was a good goal. Brito says some people say Arsenal was as good. I would say Porto had a mission to be destructive in their style, and we prevailed over their antics. I hope we learn from this Porto time moving forward. And as much as I don't like bringing it up, I still think it's important to note that going into the round of 16, we had one player that had ever been there before. Maybe two. In the starting 11. And going away at Porto, we had one, and that was Kai. And at home, we had two, because Jorginho was in the lineup. And so a lot of these players just haven't been on this stage before. And I know that people have this weird, thing where it's like, well, you should just know what to do and be perfect. And it's just like, no, I do think this team needs to learn. And, this was a very tricky tie where this is, I'm projecting here, and maybe this is not true, but I do feel like this is probably the last time we're going to play against an anti-football team, unless we end up getting Atletico or something like that, should they get through. And maybe even like Inter, I think, would maybe deploy some sort of mid-block as well, because Inzaghi's like a really good tactician. But if we were to get Man City, PSG, Real Madrid, Dortmund, any of these fucking teams, Bayern, they're not going to do this. They're going to back themselves. And so this was a very unique situation where Arsenal, Porto kind of had our number there. They understood what to do, like, in order to stop us from doing what we do best. But we found a way, and that's all that really matters, Let's see. Jordan Davis says, but let's be real, just Rice coming in has forced Odegaard to step up his leadership game. Let's not act like he didn't hide in games before it got tough. Not necessarily. I still feel like people decided like Odegaard was hiding in big games because we didn't win them. And you have to also remember, like, when was there a time where other people stepped up either? Like, in big games, sometimes we just did not play well. There were times in big games where we just were not that competitive against Liverpool and Man City. Those are the big games. When we talk about playing against Man United or playing against fucking Spurs and Chelsea, Odegaard always stepped up in those games. But the games where the margins are incredibly fine, and then there was teams that were like actually better than us, like Man City and Liverpool, there were just games where we weren't competitive. And I don't really understand how people expect us to be competitive in those circumstances and it just be about Odegaard stepping up. So he never really hid. I just feel like it was a narrative that people ran with. And now it looks stupid. Like, he never really hid in big games. He had poorish games or whatever, but I don't really say that that's hiding. Hiding would be what, I don't know, Ozil would do in big games sometimes for Arsenal, which is just like not try to get onto the ball, not press, not do this, not do that, and not having a good game on the ball, but still pressing, still leading the team, still doing what you need to do, but having a little bit of an off game on the ball is kind of not really hiding from the game. Again, it's literally was just like a weird narrative that was going around because people feel like, okay, well, if you're our best player, you should be able to do it single-handedly, and it's a team game. It's a team game. There were so many games against Man City and Liverpool where the entire team did not show up. What was Odegaard meant to do at the Etihad last season? Like, he wasn't going to be able to do it on his own. So, sorry, Odegaard is doing it. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Francis, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, AFC fans saying you did not play well shows your fans lack UCL heritage. Perfect game for UCL. You play your EPL way, you lose. As City, Kai was so unfazed. I kind of agree with this. Like, I'm not really like, the reason why I said at the beginning of the season where my expectation for this team was to get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League and beyond is because I know how difficult this Champions League is going to be. People had decided that it was weak just because their team wasn't in it, and it's not weak at all. We have never been here before, and you can't just expect to sit at the halfway line and dictate play like this. Like, the other teams, it's just so different. The atmosphere, the environment, the vibe, it's just so different. And so it just is what it is. We made it through, and like, I definitely feel like this team is learning how to switch it up between the Champions League and the Premier League. Because in the Premier League, we just show up and do our thing, and it's like business as usual. In the Champions League, it just prevents so many, like, first, it's like, it's knockout football. There's two legs. It's stressful. You don't know who these teams are. It's just different. And so I agree with you. I think obviously we could play better against mid blocks, and hopefully we learn how to deal with them in the process. But I just think that, like, there's not really anything that we did really that wrong. We won the game. The Arsenal perspective says RESPECT, give it to the Capo Odegaard. Baz says Rice has to the demeanor of a captain with everything he does. Martin's out guy, but even my Mrs. Voodoos. Don't know what that means, but the demeanor of a captain, I don't know. Like, I just feel like Rice can do his thing and Odegaard can do his thing, and it doesn't have to be strip him of the captaincy. Remember, when Odegaard wasn't playing well, he had a hip injury and was playing through injury, just like Ben White. So, very like since he's been fit, he's been leading the team, and Declan has done his thing. So, why they can't both coexist in the way that it is right now? Why Odegaard has to be stripped of the captaincy? Why any of those conversations were being had? Just felt like a little bit of premature ejaculation from some of our fan base. I'm sorry. I know that sounds gross, but it's just like literally like as soon as they see any sign of trouble, it's get this person out. I want them done. And look at, Kivior showing up in a game that matters. David Raya showing up in a game that matters. Odegaard showing up in a game that matters. 3 players, and Ben White too, 4 players that have been, they like for different reasons, have been shitted on all season. So, let's just, and Kai Havertz. So let's just, we don't always have to like jettison a person just because they're having a difficult moment, you know? But yeah, let's talk about David Raya though. Man of the match, saved 2 penalties. You guys, since he's been at Arsenal, he's saved 3 penalties. Which went very under the radar because he saved that penalty against West Ham because we lost the game. But how, like, is anybody like still thinking that David Raya is not our number 1 or can't be our number 1? Is anybody still questioning that, or has this week not been incredibly affirming for him as our number 1? No, like he's not going to save every single goal, but I also think people were being incredibly disingenuous by saying almost every single goal that we conceded from the moment he became number 1, he should have saved. But I do think he's been very good post Dubai. Even a little bit before that, I think since Luton, really, he's been very good. We went through a bad patch, but that doesn't mean that David Raya was going through a bad patch. And yesterday's game really showed like why we need somebody like him, because it was a very stressful game where our team wasn't really playing to the best of their ability, and Porto had a couple of little opportunities to hit us on the break. And there was the one where he went and he was claiming a lot of the crosses, and then he had one really good save too. His distribution was really good. He was really calm under pressure, and I just feel like this was his now can we stop fucking talking about a game? Because even after, Ramsdale tore his draws against Brentford, there was still like Raya doesn't make those saves. It's over. It's genuinely over, and it's not like a ding against Ramsdale or anything like that. But Raya just has what we need to move forward. We need calmness. We need somebody that's confident. We need somebody that's going to save a penalty here and there, and we don't win. We don't go through. We don't go through if he's not in between the sticks. We just don't, So I just feel like he deserves a lot of credit, because the way that he came in, which was due to like the way that the club did it, which I didn't like. But the way that he was just not welcomed by some of the fan base was really pathetic. And I just never really understood it, because I'm like, well, you did the same thing to Ramsdale. You ended up being good for us. Why would you do the same thing to Raya? And he's had to shut off comments. He hasn't really been welcome the way that I feel like he deserves to be. And he has just powered through some really difficult times to become our superhero in a game that really, truly mattered for our season. And so, well done, David Raya. He deserves all the flowers. Like, I just feel like, we finally have a goalkeeper that I feel like can be the difference maker in big games. And we haven't had that in a very long time. When's the last time you've seen an Arsenal goalkeeper save any penalties in a shootout? When's the last time, you guys? I'm really racking my brain. To try to remember. Did Leno save any penalties? I'm sure he did, but it's been a long time since we've seen a performance like that from an Arsenal goalkeeper. Usually our goalkeepers are kind of just there, he was definitely involved in the win. He just showed it. Like, he's never played in Champions League before, Raya. This was like his third Champions League game or some bullshit like that. I don't know. He hasn't played like a lot in Champions League. So no, I mean he played all of the group stage and all that kind of stuff, but he genuinely just has stepped in and just looks the part for me. So he's been great. He's been great. So yeah, Yo-Yo says in the Champions League, think we knocked out Roma once. It in knockout pens, I just don't remember an Arsenal goalkeeper stepping up like that very often. I'm not saying like Chesney and Martinez and them were shit, but we're talking about like the all-around goalkeeper for us, like that's gonna be able to, in the Arsenal that we are today, gonna be able to save us in big moments, to do the stuff on the ball, like all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying like those goalkeepers weren't great, but I don't think they were ever going to like take us the distance. Where maybe Raya can, maybe some people still feel like the jury is out, but it's not out for me. I've always backed him. I was in the wars, and I knew it. Like I'm just like, it's not that hard to see. The stats were there. It was just very obvious that Raya was going to be an upgrade. As long as he was able to settle in, and he has. Lynn says, just when we played Brentford, I thought that our back line didn't feel so secure with Ramsdale on goal, but last night it seemed different with Raya. I do think that like when Raya first came in, I don't think the back line looked as settled either, because when you change your goalkeepers and they're so different, it's going to change how the back line interacts with that goalkeeper. And so I don't want to say it was just because Ramsdale came in. I thought when Raya came in, it was very similar, but it was just the pressure of the Brentford game. And it was just the pressure of that Brentford game, I just think got the best out of Ramsdale. And it did kind of shake up the back line, just him being there. But yeah, I don't want to say it was just because of Ramsdale, because changing your goalkeeper changes everything. But in general, I just feel like Ramsdale he induces a little bit of stress and anxiety because he's not back there with any sort of like calmness whatsoever. So yeah. C. Wilder says, is getting Chesney as a backup number 2 an option? I don't know. I think our number 2 is going to end up being English, because we're going to probably lose some English players. We're going to lose probably Nketiah, who had another disaster class cameo yesterday, and maybe Reece Nelson and or ESR. So I feel like, and if you lose Ramsdale, you're going to have to replenish that. So I feel like he's going to be English. Is Chesney considered a homegrown? Because I know we had him real young, so is he considered a homegrown? You guys can let me know. Justin J says, big up Jess, he was in the trenches with Raya. I was in the trenches with Raya, like for sure in the trenches, like not in the trenches, but definitely in the wars for Kivior. I'm not saying I'm always right, because I do say some stupid shit and get things wrong, but I knew I wasn't going to be wrong on Raya. It was just too obvious. So yeah, Pure 10 says, all the fans chanting Ramsdale's name and ready to jump on him. Not a nice feeling as our new goalie. Yo-Yo says, Raya, Rice, Kai have all had their moments in the spotlight this season. They've shown so far that they're ready to be the difference makers, and they have made a difference. And that's so important. That's so important for new signings to kind of like, it's so important for new signings to kind of stamp their like, this is why I'm here. And like we talked about the other day, I don't think aesthetically people are going to really love Kai and Rice the way that they love Partey and Jesus, because it doesn't look the same as it did last season. And people very much so like hold the football that we played last season on a very high pedestal, which is very strange because we did not win the league with it. But Rice adds a level of like steel and determination and simplicity to our game, which we really need. And Kai adds height and aerial ability and the ability to go direct and, big moment goals and stuff like that. So I think they've definitely played their part, and Raya is definitely playing his part too. So well done. And I also want to add Kivior in there because January marked his first full season at Arsenal, and we hadn't seen much of him prior to that. And I do think he's played his role, because without him, I don't know where we'd be, because no Tommy, no Zinchenko, no Timber. And he has held us down since coming in at halftime against Liverpool. which is the beginning of our really, really good run too. So, or not really the beginning, but you guys know what I mean. Like we really went to another level after that. So well done, Kivior, as well. There's 300 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. I saw somebody wanted to say, speaking of cameos, Sib says, speaking of cameos, Gabriel Jesus was good when he came on. I have to rewatch it. I don't know if I felt as strongly about his cameo, but he did add a little bit something at the very beginning. I will say that because we had that one opportunity where he could have scored, but the goalkeeper made a good save. So I'll take that back. I do remember some of the things he did. The one thing I will say about some of the players coming off of the bench is that these players that have started this game and have pretty much played for the last 10 games need your fucking help. Can you not help at all? You know, I just feel like some of the cameos that we get off of the bench from some of our players, especially the ones that we expect a little bit more of, just leave a lot to be desired. I just feel as though like it's just shocking sometimes. Like when you see some of the performances that come off of the bench, I cannot believe like Zinchenko is somebody that I do rate in terms of like what he does on the ball and stuff like that. But I'm just like, how dare you come on the pitch and give up a meaningless corner? How dare you? Like I could pack your bags tomorrow. Genuinely. Like, what are you fucking thinking, man? You know, I thought him and Jesus were kind of fucking around with it in that corner a little bit too much too. They weren't really like, once Jesus stopped playing up top, once he stopped playing up top and he came back deeper and was kind of like on the wing, I think when Nketiah came on, I thought him and Zinchenko just lost the plot. They could not get it off that side and do simple shit and just like get us out of trouble. They were creating more problems by messing around with it in that corner. They looked nervous. They looked nervous. And I'm just like, you guys are experienced. Why are you guys coming on and creating more problems? Like, it's just, chow. We need help. There's no help off the bench. There's no help off the bench. I am waiting for somebody to come off of the bench and for me to genuinely feel like they played really well when they came off of the bench. Jesus started off good, but once he went back to the wing role, fuck. Him and Zinchenko on that side, I was like, oh my gosh, like, can you just get it out? Like, you're fucking scaring me so much. It was insane. Let's see. Jagoon says it was Zinni and Eddie. The Arsenal perspective says, yeah, a lot of our subs are not being as impactful as the boss might have required. It's like you don't play, and maybe that's the problem, but like we need help. Can you come off of the bench and do something decent? I feel like our best player off of the bench is probably Trossard because when he comes into the starting 11, he can do stuff. He wasn't amazing, but like nobody was, you know. But usually his cameos off the bench tend to be somewhat usable, you know, like, but like when some of these guys come off of the bench, I'm like, yo, I need more, you know. I guess, I mean, we do have a lot of goals that come from players off of the bench, but maybe it was just yesterday where I feel like it just is like, I would love to be like, oh my gosh, did you see when so-and-so came on? They just really just changed the game. Nah, it's more like, what's going on? Like, you know, what's going on? So yeah, maybe it was just in the heat of the moment. It felt bigger than what it was, but I was just like, I need you guys that came off. You guys have been in the Champions League before. Come off of the bench and make a difference. Don't make us fucking worse, you know? Yeah. John P says Zinni is unfull against lower half teams. Big games, he is a liability. Sammy says, so nice. So happy Rice didn't get a yellow. We need him in the first leg of the quarters. I know that's right. Yo-Yo says that the issue, that's the issue with the ones returning from injury. There is no time for them to catch up to speed. I'm surprised Reese hasn't gotten more slack with Martinelli out. I was like, and I get like in hindsight, it all makes sense, but like Arteta was very reluctant to make very many changes. And I kind of get why now. Like, we have so many of those guys coming back off of injury that they just maybe can't make the impact that we feel like they can't, like they should. Like, you think about like the way like Thiago Alcantara came on and had like a disaster class of like a 10 minutes against us when we played against Liverpool because he had been out for so long. I feel very similarly about some of the like, you know, performances that we're getting from, Partey when he comes on for a couple minutes, Zinchenko, Jesus, Tommy, I don't know what he'd be like if he came on. So yeah, maybe it's just a little bit of like rustiness, and like there's not going to be like a lot of dead minutes to give them to get up to speed. And that's like the catch 22 about, oh, we're going to have this fully fit squad. It's like, we have more bodies, but are they fit? No. So maybe it's just a little bit of that, so that's a really, really good point. For sure. Listen, we have more super chats here that I want to read out. O'Malley says Madrid outshot 20-11 at home against fifth place team in Germany, made it through, and people scream CL heritage. Don't let rivals hate on the win. I don't care what rivals are saying, because listen, like, we're through and you're not there. Unless you're Man City, you're not there. And to do hate alongs for 4 hours just to watch us go through and then be like, yeah, but you needed penalties. It's like, fuck off. Like, nobody actually cares. We're through and you're shitting bricks. They know they're not that dense. They know that we played against a team that decided not to play. And if we play against somebody that maybe plays their way, we'll have more joy. So I don't care what rivals are saying right now. It's all copium and hopium and stuff like that. This has not been a good week for them. They watched us against Brentford and had to watch Kai take us to the top of the table and then sit there and watch us beat Porto and go to the next round. So they can sit on it and spin. Like, I do not care. Big G from the group home says, I Googled psychiatrist near me after the game. This could be a growth game. Playing a frustrating Porto is no fun, but adversity equals progress. And we made progress because we got through. Our European record with Mikel Arteta and in general in the Champions League has not been very good. And so Arteta getting to the next round in his first, try in the Champions League, I think is a good sign. Yes, it did come down to penalties, but sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. And like, he made a decision to bring in a goalkeeper that could be a difference maker, and he was. He also chose to spend big money on Kai, who put his penalty away. Jesus is not great at penalties, by the way, so we couldn't have put our number 9 out there. He's not a great penalty taker. He bought Declan Rice, who also put his penalty away. So the decisions that he's making are making difference in the moments that matter. And so, no, we didn't wipe Porto away, but we can't be so arrogant that we feel like first time back in the Champions League, we're just going to wipe teams away. I think like early on in Man City's like first years of being in the Champions League, they, I do think, had a difficult time with Monaco, and they also had a difficult time with Lyon, who are teams that, nobody really liked. The Monaco team ended up being like a streets will never forget team, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it does take a little bit more to get it over the line. So yeah, I think that this was a growth game for us, and a real big growth game for David Raya and Odegaard in particular, because you need your captain and sometimes your goalkeeper to make a huge difference in games like this. And I felt like they did. So well done to them for sure. Pip the Gooner, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, I felt like that meme, all my homies hate Porto. I felt like the meme Ho's mad. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Ho's mad, Ho's mad, Ho's mad. Like, these people are really mad out here. Like, I don't know what to tell you. If you sat up all night and watched us, that's just too damn bad. And I hope you're tired at work today. Also, I don't know what his name is, the coach. And I won't learn his name. I won't. How pathetic. Okay, so I thought like not the main reason I wanted us to go through, but like a big reason why I wanted us to go through was because the absolute, yapping and yipping that was going on pre this game, I felt like was a lot for, I was like, oh, so they really think they're coming to the M's and going through. Like, okay. I thought before the game away, I thought they were talking a lot. Oh, Arsenal are favorites and they have to prove to us why they're favorites and blah, 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 blah. Then Varela or whatever his name is, oh, Arsenal, what do they know about Champions League? We've won 2 Champions Leagues. They've never won anything before. We're going to go there and go through. The Porto manager, Arsenal came to play, we came to win. All this bullshit. He hit the vein in that man's neck after the game was fucking bulging. It was bulging. He was so furious. And he wasn't mad because Arteta told him to suck his mom. That is not what he was mad about. He was mad that they lost, that they did all that talking. You know, their fans came to the Emirates and put a Porto scarf over Arsene Wenger's statue, which I think is incredibly, like, that's just so disrespectful. It's ridiculous. You don't come to somebody else's stadium and, like, you know, do stuff to their fucking statues and stuff. But it's just like he was mad because they talk shit and they didn't get through. That's all it was, you know. And you know, he deflected, which was a cute little tactic. You know, he's like, if I can get the media on Arteta's back, you know, that's great. You know, because then nobody will talk about how we played for penalties and lost. You know, so it was cute, but no. Arteta doesn't know that your parents passed away when you were young. And it's just like a throwaway thing to say, like, F your mom. You know, it just is. Like, it's a throwaway thing, you know? So it's just not like a thing to be like upset by. And he tried it, but like he also tried it against Pep and he also tried it against Tuchel. Like, there are like receipts of him doing this exact same thing when he's gone out in the Champions League before against managers of English clubs. So he can fuck off. Like, I'm so sorry, but like the way that he was acting the entire game and the entire 2 legs, I don't feel bad for him. I loved when Kai Havertz ran into him. I thought it was great. Like, so he can hold that. Like, seriously, like, nobody feels sorry for you. You had everything going your way. Like, the refs, you know, you went into this game with a 1-goal lead and you played for penalties and you got them. So you have nothing to complain about. We won, you lost, go home. You know, it's just crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, it's like we were saying, like, okay, well, was there any proof? There is no proof. But I'll stand 10 toes down that even if Arteta did say, you know, yo mama, you know, like, even if Arteta said, yo mama, like, that is not a reason to be pretending as though he said something that really offended you. It didn't offend you. It didn't offend you. You wanted to deflect blame. Nobody looked up your family history before this game, bro. Nobody did. I'm sorry your parents are no longer with us. It is what it is. Like, you know, it's not like anybody is like wishing bad on you or anything like that. But if Arteta said yo mama, he said yo mama. You know, I don't know. Yo-Yo says, I for one like the spice between the 2 camps. I think it'll be a massive learning experience for Arteta and his players. Kwame says he said it was in jest the way they lost. He's big mad. He is big mad. Let's see. Dude Perp says rival fans trying to run defamation on Arteta through the Porto manager's lies is so goddamn sad. They really hate us. And I did see people saying, if Arteta did do this, he is so pathetic. Oh my God, Mikel Arteta, he's so. Shut up. Shut up. Be serious. Come on. Like, come on. Like, you actually don't care about that man and his family. You don't. You just want something to be said about Mikel Arteta because you're mad that you stayed up for the hate watch. Just like nobody is more pathetic than Arsenal's rivals staying up to watch the MLS All-Star Skill Challenge. This is right up with it. Like, it's right up with it. Like, stop watching us and hoping that we fail. Like, stop. Come on. Like, you know, so it's crazy. Let's see. There's 371 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing while I find some more comments. Let's see. Damien says, Jess, do you have any Jamaican percentage? You mentioned Suck Mom. That's Jamaican Gus Leg. My friend told me about it. My friend Gabby, shout out to Gabby. She's Jamaican, and she was like, it's just a normal thing that Jamaicans say. And I was like, it's just like saying your mom. Like, as an American, like, it's not that deep. Like, nobody is actually like, it's crazy. Like, come on. Nicholas says, I actually like that Havertz hit him. Me too. Like, listen, if you want the smoke, like, make sure you're ready, because they wanted the smoke the whole time. They had decided that the way that they were going to win it was nothing to do with football, not playing, fouling, rolling around on the ground, keeping the ball out of bounds, and talking in press conferences. That was their whole thing. And so if you want the smoke, you got it. It is what it is. Yo-Yo says Arteta's making victims of old managers. You love to see it. I also think it's a little bit of that too. Like, how dare people rate this manager? He's only been around for like 2 seconds. And it's like, yeah, but if Arteta's actually good at what he does, then Arteta's just good at what he does. Like, age doesn't matter. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think people are seeing that this manager is serious. He has a really good young team that's performing. And I just don't just accept. Just accept, it's so crazy. Damien says, I'm so happy that we beat him. I'm happy as well. C. Wilder says he was basically saying, look over there. I agree with you 110%. The deflection, it was cute, but it didn't work. Yeah, so let's see. Trini Gunner says, which player has been the biggest pleasant surprise this season? Who has been the most disappointing? Which player has been the biggest pleasant surprise this season? Who has been the most disappointing? I guess the most pleasant surprise has probably been Kai. It just has to be on the recency of it. So I would say Kai, because I genuinely did not have an idea of what it would be, or what would happen with the signing. The most disappointing, I would probably say, is probably Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. Most likely Gabriel Jesus, because we had already kind of moved away from Zinchenko anyway. Buying Timber solidified it. But I feel like it's Jesus to me just a little bit, just because he hasn't, it's harsh because he has the knee injury, but I just feel like he's was supposed to be our starting number 9. He's a part of everybody's best 11. And I just feel like the season is just kind of went off into the distance for him. The goal that he scored against Sevilla feels like so long ago. And so I feel like most disappointing, not because I'm mad at him for having a knee injury. It's more, I'm disappointed that he's not as big of a character in our story as I felt like he would be. Yeah. So Jorginho is another big surprise. I agree with Kasim. I didn't think he would have this big of an impact, but he is having a big impact. The reason why I wouldn't choose Partey is because I'm not surprised that he's not available, and it's just not a surprise to me. But this is Jesus's second season. I kind of expected the knee injury to have, him to have moved on, but he just hasn't played enough football. And when he has played, he's been, so it sucks, but it's hard for me to pick somebody that's been super disappointing, because I feel like for the most part, we're getting a lot out of the group that we have. I don't have very high expectations for Eddie and Reese and Emil and these guys. So yeah, I feel like it's just a little bit, yeah. Omo says Trossard has scored 2 equalizers to take us to pens and win the season. Let's talk about the goal, because it was a great goal. And again, it was one of those goals where we should have went long more to Kai, because when we were able to go long to Kai, they had our back line, I'm not a tactician, don't hate me. Our back line was here, and then they had this line of people just like right here in like that mid block, and then we had like Kai like here. And I just wish we would have went long to him a little bit more, and then he could have knocked down the second ball. And with our athleticism and our height and strength, we should have been able to get to those a lot easier. And that's how we scored the goal. Went long to Kai. He knocked it down. Odegaard got it, did his magic, passed it back and forth to Trossard a couple of times. They made like Odegaard, his feet were fantastic. He basically baited like 4 players and then put in the perfect ball to Trossard and a finish. Like, it was a great goal, a great goal. I wish we would have went long so much more, because we could have done that so many more times. But the finish was perfect. The assist was great. It just was like exactly what we needed. And it ended up being super important because, obviously we needed the goal to go at least to penalties, or to go to extra time and penalties, So and Trossard, he does come up with big goals. I think Trossard, he does come up with opening goals and winning goals and things like that. He gave us a winning goal against Leicester last year. Like, he's done some big things for us. So no, he's not good on the wing. I know we've talked about that ad nauseum. Man is not a sideline winger. Like, he's just not. Like, and when he's out there, it's painful. But if you get Trossard in the box, he's one of our best finishers. And so the more we do that, the better. And so, yeah, well done, Trossard. Well done, Odegaard. It was a great goal. And yeah, like, everybody's pitching in, which is important. Anton Dunn says Jesus is giving bit part, but it's fine. I'm like, I didn't expect him to be a bit part player this season, though. So I'm not sure if it's fine. We went into the season with Jesus being our number 9, and pretty much feeling like Kai Havertz was a failed signing or a bad signing, and that he would never displace Jesus. And we're going into the final 10 of the Premier League, and you cannot drop Kai. I would not drop Kai, not at all. There's not anything that would make me drop Kai. So I do think it's a little bit surprising and disappointing in a way, because when he was supposed to be so I'm not sure it's fine, and so yeah, that's all it really is. We can't pretend like we expected Jesus to be a bit part player this season. It's become that, and we're accepting it because we know we'll buy a striker this coming summer. But as the way that this season is panned out, it is a little bit disappointing. Guys, I haven't even taken one sip of this. I've been talking this whole time and it's barely warm. So give me a sec. I needed that. Woo! All right. Philip says Trossard, Kivior, Jorginho, Rice, Havertz, Timber, and Raya. 7 out of 7 successful signings since last jam. Yeah. I think they've all been successful. I think we're still, I don't know. I'm holding on to my Vieira stocks, but I mean, to be honest, like, that is a very good hit rate. Where, we had question marks before, maybe on Kivior and some people for Raya and definitely for Havertz, but those are good signings, and so they're all playing their part, and we're better off for it, Pip the Gooner, thank you so much for your super chat, says uncanny resemblance of Trossard and the ref. Every time I see that guy, I'm like, you guys are related. You guys are related. Like, you need to do like a DNA, like, to make sure that you guys are not related, because it's actually weird that you guys look so similar. It was crazy, like, but the ref is from France, so maybe, I don't know, maybe Trossard's dad, I don't know, had like another child somewhere else and nobody knew about it. And then he had like his new family and had Trussy, and they just don't know about each other. I don't know. I'm just making up shit now. So yeah, John P says, when you are twisting and turning, dribbler knee injuries are killers. And that's the thing, is the jinky is not going to jinky the same without being able to use the knees, so that is a little bit of a concern. That being said, I would not sell Jesus. I know people will start asking that question. Are you selling Jesus? No. Definitely another season. And hopefully that knee can be repaired, and he can play a role at Arsenal. I do think the days are kind of gone of him being our number one guy, and it is insane how quickly we've moved beyond Zinchenko and Jesus. I'm not saying that they can't play a role, but it's very obvious, that despite I rate both players, and I do think they took us to another level last season, it is actually very shocking that we are just doom 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 move beyond that quickly. We've moved beyond this insane inversion with Zinchenko, which still works, especially against the smaller teams, but hasn't necessarily been as fruitful this season. And Jesus, Kai Havertz, if we're going to have a striker that's not going to score a lot of goals, having one that can at least run the channels and win the aerial duels and come up with a big goal here and there is really good, So it's very very interesting times ahead. Very interesting times ahead, I think. But I always said that the core of the team was Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, Odegaard, now Rice, Saka and Martinelli. And I stand by that. I still feel like that's the core, probably with Havertz now too. And we'll add other pieces around it, but never quite felt like Zinchenko and Jesus were core members. They were, guys that up the technical level, if that makes sense. We know who the main group is, if that makes sense. So there's still 350 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys smash the likes. The Arsenal perspective, thank you so much for your super chat, says Jess, here's for a warm cuppa. Thank you so much, you guys. The addiction is real. And I use all these super chats to buy coffee. I'm not paying bills with this. It's paying the coffee bill. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Let's see. Let me start that really quick. C. Walder says, I'm not done with Jesus. It seems he's become a worse player without even playing. It's just the knee. I think it's the knee, and then you have a lack of confidence in that knee. If you're getting your knee drained before games, it's really bad. And there was damage around the knee, which really sucks. The tissue around the knee, I think, or the ligaments around the knee. I'm not a doctor, but that's what I read. And so, that sucks. And then there's the element of Jesus, which I've always said, about him when we bought him, is that because I rate him and I love him, but one of the things that always stuck out to me when he played for Brazil and Manchester City is how he got in his own way. When he relies on his natural talent and plays with joy and freedom, he is one of the best players on the planet. When he plays with a level of anxiety and stress, he becomes a head case. And I do feel like there's times where I feel like he is spinning, where he gets wrapped up in the physical battle with the center back and loses it a little bit, where he gets frustrated with not getting fouls, or, he's having a bad game and he starts to really just spiral. And the one thing I like about Kai is that he never quite seems fazed by anything. He tends to be able to kind of, he gets in the dark arts and all that, but he doesn't seem to allow the one chance or whatever to take him out of the game or the physical battle with a center back or anything like that, where I feel like Jesus can get distracted quite quickly and get into his emotions a little bit too much. And those emotions can be great when you're playing well, but when you're not playing well, they can take you out of the game. And so this is all being said by somebody that wanted Jesus at the club, was gassed when he signed, still love him as a player, but that's his reality. And we bought Jesus and Zinchenko, and I could have named you their flaws. Right. Once we signed them, I was like, this is what they do. This is what they do. This is what they do great. This is not what they do well, blah, blah, blah. And that has been 100% the case. Both have, reoccurring injuries. They've had injury issues here that they've had at Manchester City. Flattered to deceive in big moments. And, Zinchenko is not a great defender and Jesus is not a fantastic finisher. They've been exactly what was on the box when we bought them. It's just crazy how quickly we've gone beyond them for them not to be so integral to the team anymore for us to win games. It's crazy. Yo-Yo says Jesus, like all players in the squad, will have their part to play this squeaky bum time. Otherwise, they have no business being at the club. Fair enough. Blaze said, Jess, are you surprised that Partey didn't come off the bench versus Porto? Did Arteta still trust him? I was surprised. I felt as though maybe the better move, and this is all wrong now, because I thought Saka was playing so poorly that, and this is before I felt like we were going to go to penalties. I felt like Saka, this was never going to happen, but I was like, maybe take Saka off, bring Jesus on, and like instead of moving Kai to midfield, just put Jesus on the wing. But that ended up being stupid, because then Saka wouldn't have been on for penalties. And so I think the reason why Partey ended up not coming on is because Arteta wanted to keep all his penalty takers on, because you obviously couldn't take off Rice. Saka is your main penalty taker as well. There's no way to take off Odegaard either, and you can't take off Kai, because Kai is another penalty taker. So I feel like everything was with the eye of this might go to penalties, and if it does, on the off chances that it does, you can't have, none of your, because Saliba and Gabriel, White and Kivior / Zinchenko, they're not taking penalties. They're not, so that's already those guys off the table. So just imagine if you had taken Saka off, or, taking Kai off, and let's say you had Jesus out there and Partey out there at the end, and that takes away some of your penalty takers already. So I feel like that's more what it was, is that Arteta was like, if it goes to penalties, I need to have my guys out there. And so that didn't leave room to bring on Partey. I mean, you could have subbed him on for Georgie maybe, but also he's not fit. He's probably not fit enough. So, and I think Arteta's move was to bring in Jesus, because Jesus was going to add like extra attacking, and Kai could go into midfield. But I think some of it was to keep the penalty takers on, and then also because Thomas Partey just is not fit enough. We've seen it already, and we already saw that like Jesus and Zinchenko were quite rusty, or not fully fitish. To add a Thomas Partey in there probably would have been fatal. So yeah, like it's maybe a trust thing and a keeping the penalty takers thing on. But I mean, you could have done a like for like with Jorginho, but I just don't think that's what Arteta wanted to do. You guys can let me know in the comments if you think that Partey should have came on. But what else what I'll say about Partey, and I've always kind of felt this way too, is that he flatters to deceive in the big moments. In the games that really matter, he's either not available or has a disaster class. And so, I'm not sure that he's gained enough trust in those moments to be somebody that you're like, yeah, you have to be bringing him on. Now, do I think that Zinchenko and Jesus have quite similar reputations? Yes. But do I think Arteta probably trusts them more? Yeah. I think he trusts Jesus and Zinchenko more than Thomas Partey. So yeah, you guys can let me know whether or not you thought that was a good thing or not, but it is what it is. Arteta, I think people are probably not cottoning on to this quite yet, or have not accepted, but Kai Havertz is a key member of this team, whether you like it or not. He is a starter, whether that's in midfield or up top. And if Arteta if he's going to change things up in midfield, he's more likely to move Kai Havertz into midfield than to bring Thomas Partey off of the bench at this point. So let's see if that continues to be true. But I think based on the way that the season started, where Arteta decided to start Thomas Partey at right back and Kai Havertz started in midfield, I do think that he is a key member. He's always available. He's always fit. He works hard. He can play in multiple positions. And Arteta decided to spend 65 million on him. Like, Kai Havertz is fucking important to Arteta, so people were like, why didn't Havertz come off, against Brentford? I was like, you guys actually think Havertz is coming off of the pitch? Really? Why didn't Havertz come off? Havertz coming off against Brentford? Are you crazy? Like, Havertz doesn't need to come off. He's like, and I'm getting to the point now where I don't want to see him off the pitch. Like, I don't, because I don't trust the other people. Like, I trust him more. So it's crazy to say that, because a couple of weeks ago I wouldn't have said that. But that's how fast football changes. And again, like, that could be how fast things change. Maybe we get to the end of the season and Jesus and Partey play a massive role because they've been, like, there's an opportunity to, but I just feel like Arteta just loves Odegaard and Saka and Kai Havertz and Rice. And those guys are going to be on the pitch no matter fucking what. So I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Architecture, oh, you guys are talking to each other. Sorry. Yo-Yo says, I thought the subs made sense, although again, I was surprised Reese wasn't called upon. He's not trusted. Yeah. Yami says Partey needs 3 games to get going. It's a normal thing for him. And let's actually look at the schedule really quick while we're sitting here, because there may actually, I do think it would be of interest of Arteta to find a game. I think we play Luton at home soon too. For Jesus and Partey in particular to get onto the pitch, and maybe even Tommy to get them some minutes, because if they're not going to get game fitness playing and training, So let's actually see, because there has to be a game where, I know Arteta won't want to do it, but there has to be a game at home where we give them some minutes before the run-in, like not before in the run-in, but you know what I mean. So they won't come in against Man City. And I would, as a rule of thumb, I wouldn't play Jesus or Zinchenko against Man City, because again, that's when the head case fully sets in. It's like, we're playing against our ex team and they didn't want us, and oh my gosh, head moment, oh my god, head loss. So wouldn't even if they were fit, they wouldn't play for me. But Arsenal against Luton Town at home is probably the best opportunity to play Partey, and Jesus before this little run-in time. Brighton is also away, might be a good opportunity. I know it's a little bit like it's Brighton away, but they're not that great. And like basically you need to get like at least 90 minutes in the legs of Jesus and Partey before we get to like Tottenham, Man United, that part, so yeah, I would probably start them against Luton and try to see if I could give them a full 90, because we should be beating Luton are really good at home, but away they're not as good. So yeah, that's probably what I do to get them some minutes so that they could be usable against Tottenham, Man United. And then Chelsea is going to be rescheduled in there too. So, because I was like, that don't look right, but it's because Chelsea is not in there yet. So yeah, got to get them some minutes so that they're usable. But right now it is what it is. Derek says, don't judge Partey on last season's stinker against Man City. I'm not. I'm judging him on the 4 years that he's been here. I mean, you guys, we're not going to go through it. The 4 years that he's been here, I can count on maybe 1, 2, 3 fingers where he's been like really, really good in a big match against like Man City and or Liverpool. He was really good on the one at home. He, actually like thought he was good at home, maybe against Liverpool too, but it's not it. Like it's just not it. Chosen One says, Jess, it's weird. I think teams like Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern, etc., favor Arsenal's style of play more. Not that they'll beat them, but those teams will come to play football. And so here's the thing. So the next round, I just want to play against a team that's going to play their game and back themselves. Like, here's my whole thing that at the beginning of the season, you guys can go back in the tapes and watch if you guys want to see. But I said at the beginning of the season, I want to be in a title race. And when I say in a title race, I feel like if we don't win it, we need to be within like a point or two. We need to take whoever wins all the way to the end, right? If we don't win it, and also get to at least the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So we're hitting all those marks right now. I think the one that we probably won't get is we're not going to win a trophy, because I don't think we're going to win the Champions League, and I'm still skeptical about the Premier League. But that being said, Sir Nicholas says, just live stream the draw. I think that, I just want to play against somebody who's going to kind of open up and play their game. I'd love to get like Dortmund or, just any team that plays more open, because at this stage, unless we play against like PSV, it's not that I'm okay to go out. I just feel like we're not going up against somebody that I would be embarrassed to go out against. Nobody really expected us to even be this some people predicted us as favorites, and I think they were just more setting us up for failure there. But this is going to be tough for this team. We're managing a title race, and in the first time for some of these players ever playing in the Champions League in the knockouts. So anybody that'll open up and play their game, so that we can play ours, because our game versus other people's game, I back us to do well, and that's just, yeah, I would take like Dortmund. Dortmund would be great. I would really take anybody other than, I really don't want Man City. I feel like the reason why I don't want Man City is not because I just hate playing them, but because I just feel like the whole point of playing European competition is not to play the same people you've always played. So it's kind of like avoid City and avoid whoever wins the Inter Atletico draw or tie, because both of them will play that nasty mid block. No, they will both play that nasty mid block. They have tacticians for managers, and they won't back themselves. Like, they'll back themselves to play a nasty block, if that makes sense. So yeah, avoid Inter, because I think they'll go through. Avoid Inter, avoid Man City. Anybody else I'll take. Anybody else I'll be fine with. If we get Real Madrid, we get Real Madrid, y'all. But I want to play against a team that doesn't play in the Premier League. Like, we've seen what we're like against Man City. It's tired. Like, I'm tired of it. But I'm kind of open for whatever. Tawanda says Real Madrid, Inter, Atletico, Bayern are genuine threats. Yeah, definitely. I think anybody we play from here is going to be hard. Like, it is what it is. Yo-Yo says, I don't want Madrid, City, Inter until the final. I'm here for everyone else in the next round. I'm kind of with that too. But if we get Real Madrid, we get Real Madrid. Like, and I know it's like, yeah, we have, it could be PSG. I'm like, yeah, at this point, whoever we're playing, bar PSV or Bayern, have players that are just like out of this world, so we're not getting away with it. We're not getting away with it. We're going to play a hard team. So yeah. Saida says Barca is the best scenario. They're not necessarily the best defensively, and with their attack, they'll leave enough spaces open, although our PMP can be an advantage. I would like to play Barcelona, Bayern. I'm talking about not Bayern, Barcelona, Dortmund, these teams that will open up, and play their way, because our way against your way, I back ourselves. But yeah, I'm kind of down for whatever. Just don't give us Man City, because what a waste that would be. But yeah, let's see what happens. But let me just make sure I got all the super chats. Pip the Gooner, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, I wish Havertz sweet chin music. I wish Havertz sweet chin music. Their manager, 10 out of 10. Havertz was so funny against their manager. Like, he just has it. Like, when we played against Newcastle, that's what I honestly thought, like, the turnaround for him started, which was great, and he's just, I don't know, he just has the ability to rattle people. And sometimes you need a rattler. You need somebody that just gets the juices flowing, so good guy. No, he didn't have like the best game, like, we know that, but like, who really did, except for Odegaard and Raya? Like, let's be serious. I am hungry. I hate when it's early in the morning, because it's only like 6:15 today, like right now in Cali, and like, I am already starving, which is like insane. Nobody should be that hungry right now. Tawanda says rather Barcelona or Dortmund. Barcelona or Dortmund definitely would be good, but I don't know. We'll get whoever we don't want. Just not Man City, please. Yami said, I love Kai's pushing of the manager and player. Same. Rendition says German troller. Dude says, moments make it the man. and I need Bukayo to be that man in the knockouts going forward. If these world-class shouts want to have merit to them, was disappointed with him yesterday. Same. I mean, I'm not going to hold it against him. Like, I feel like we have another opportunity. He has another opportunity to make it right, but it just wasn't great, and I needed him to have a moment, but we got the moment from Odegaard, which was great, so he has another opportunity to make it right. So there's 345 of you guys in here. I want to know who everybody wants to play in the next round. So everybody, all 340 of you guys, get in the comments and let me know right now who you guys want in the next round before we get out of here so I can read them out. Because I want to know. Starvation, man. Graham says PSG. Yami says Real Madrid. Miller says PSG. Arca says Barca. Jagoon says Bayern. User 1 says Dortmund. O'Malley says PSG. Don 1 says Barcelona. Frank says Bayern Munich. Chosen 1 says PSG. Saka and Mbappe, I had chills. Saida says Barca. Sammy says PSV/Dortmund. Dude says, bring me Dortmund. Arca says Barca. Andy says Arsenal to get an easy draw. We deserve an easy one. We don't usually get easy draws. So I'm not trying to hear it. Like, I'm not trying to hear this whole like, oh, Arsenal, they're getting another easy draw. We don't usually get easy draws. So, Hugo says Bayern or PSG. Hakuza says Dortmund. O'Malley says Saliba versus Mbappe. Hopefully Saliba gets his mind right before that because Saliba's been a little off, Paul says Rushton and Diamonds. Okay. Jordan says Bayern. Nuances of Fate says we'll get who we get. I just don't want City because that's not really a fun tie considering Prem and all that. Agreed. Rendition says this game shows how important Martinelli is. Even if he has a bad game, fullbacks are still wary of him. Agreed. I don't think we talked about that enough, but Martinelli was definitely a huge miss. So hopefully whatever's going on with his foot is fixed. Nicholas says Barcelona revenge or Real Madrid a banger. Tawanda says PSG or Dortmund. Olu says give me Bayern. Yo-Yo says PSG, Barca, Bayern. I like those options, although instead of Bayern, I'd put Dortmund. Michael says Dortmund. Kevin says Barcelona. Jordan says, I want revenge, Bayern. Bring me Kane. The Arsenal perspective says Barca. Philip says, we will get Inter City. We will get Inter and City will get PSV. As long as we don't get City, I'm fine. I do not want City. Like, I'm sorry. So yeah, almost says Madrid. Martin says Bayern would be poetic if we end Harry Kane's hope of winning any trophies. Agreed. And so, yeah, most of us are saying just avoid Man City. And that's the key. You guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel and all that jazz. Make sure you guys set notifications and all that kind of stuff. We'll be back tomorrow with more content. And we'll see how we get through this international break because, child, it's going to be long. So think of some topics and send them to me via DM so we can chat about it because it's a struggle during international breaks to think of topics. But I'm sure we'll live through this game for a while. Shout out David Raya. Shout out Odegaard. Shout out everybody. Shout out Inaki Kanya. Shout out Nicholas Yover. Shout out everybody. Because yesterday was a movie and I want to say I enjoyed every minute of it. I didn't, but it was great in the end. So there you go. Make sure you guys, like I said, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.